Hey YouTube, so one thing, I want to make a regular YouTube video today in addition to the I bought a car YouTube video, but I want to talk real quick, I do have a Facebook, but I do want to keep that private, personal for people I've actually met in real life, so I get a lot of messages asking for that. I'm making the YouTube videos, but I'm not interested really too much in kind of losing some of that privacy, even though I'm already doing this, so please respect that. And just keep in mind that if you're trying to get in contact with me, chances are, I do read all the messages that I do get, so, I will reply if there's something, if you have specific questions, things like that, I try to reply as much as I can. Replying to comments is a little bit more difficult, but, just keep in mind that moving forward, once I start working, it will be more difficult for me to keep in touch, but I still will try to do my best. But what I want to talk about is something that was actually a comment on my last video, is paying for a transition, or how much does transition cost, and that obviously depends a lot on sort of how much you have to work with beginning-wise. So some people take really well to hormones, some people don't, and so that might mean that you don't need breast implants if you're going to get a lot kind of naturally, and so obviously that can help you save some money. Conversely, if you're a little bit older, if you're a little bit more maybe masculinized, whatever the word is, if testosterone's had a bigger impact on, say, your face, your body, then maybe you need more hair removal, which is going to cost more money, or maybe you need facial feminization surgery, so that's a really big expense as well. And then whether or not you're non-op or you want the op, obviously that can cost a lot of money, especially if you're paying for it out of pocket versus maybe having insurance help cover it. And you can even use a HSA, a health savings account, to sort of help pay for some of these surgeries, some of these operations. So, if your insurance doesn't necessarily cover it, you can still pay out of pocket for it, but then you get that money pre-tax out of your HSA, so that actually allows you to save a little bit more as a result of that, which is pretty convenient if you're paying for things out of pocket. Hormones themselves, I think I've been told injections are more expensive than oral, which is what I take. But if you have insurance, then the amount you pay for your prescription is the same no matter what the dose is. So, one thing, if you can get a doctor to do it, I don't know if you can, is to maybe get prescribed something more than you need, potentially, or take less if you want. But yeah, my co-pays for my insurance were $10 per prescription, and so $20 per month covered estrogen and spironolactone, and then when I was on progesterone, that was another $10 as well. So you should probably budget between $20 and $30 a month if you're thinking about oral. Otherwise, perhaps anticipate paying a little bit more, and obviously this does depend on your insurance coverage, and if you don't have it, the good news is that there are prescription savings plans you can get through Walmart, Target, I think CVS, Rite Aid, Walgreens, all the big pharmacies, they have some sort of generic prescription plan, so you can get estrogen and spironolactone. I think you can even get injections at a reduced rate if you don't have insurance, but then you still would have to pay to see a doctor to get an actual prescription. And then you would want to do your blood work every 3 months when you're kind of ramping up your doses, every 6 months really, once you're maintaining a dose, just to make sure that everything is where it should be, and everything's going well. And I think if you're paying out of pocket for that, you can go to like a LabCorp or basically anywhere that drug tests. Commercially, they can also do blood lab work for you for pretty cheap, and then you just have to be able to interpret the results. And I think when I was paying for the panels, that I think was like $40 per blood work session with my insurance. Obviously, the surgeries, I'm not sure what breast implants cost or breast augmentation. Probably depends on the surgeon, some other things like that. But I imagine 5 to 10 seems to be what I've heard, depending on kind of all those variables. And then for SRS, it can end up being somewhere between 15 to 25 when you take into account travel, hotel, the actual cost itself, the hospital fees, things like that. And so if you can get a job with one of those HRC 100, sorry about that, one of those HRC 100 employers, then obviously in some cases that means they have full coverage. So for me, my company will actually end up, through their health insurance, paying for both breast augmentation and bottom surgery if I want it. And they would do the same for trans men as well, just kind of in the reverse, obviously. But I've heard some other people where their company maybe covers part of it or not all of it. In a lot of cases, you can kind of just talk to your employer's HR. And I've heard several stories where people have convinced their HR to go ahead and cover it, or offer partial coverage, or in some cases somebody just basically got a $10,000 check from their employer saying, okay, go use this for that. And so obviously it depends on kind of how structured, how corporate the company is, but it doesn't hurt to ask. But there's that. Or you might have to pay a certain percentage if you go out of the country versus in the country, like all sorts of things like that. So that gets a little bit more complex to break down the cost. But then I think some things that people kind of don't necessarily think about is hair removal can be really expensive. I think I've spent somewhere around $2,000 on it, and I'm definitely not done yet. Thankfully, I have very light-colored facial hair. I actually have to pencil in my eyebrows because they're so light. But that can end up being several $1,000s as well. I plan on going to E3000 in Dallas because I've heard really great things about them, and kind of just getting them to finish the job all at once. Maybe I'll use some of that signing bonus money I saved by having zero down on my car. But there's hair removal, and then there's the wardrobe. And so I don't think too many people think about that, but if you're not one of the people who's kind of okay with thrift shopping, which not really my thing, I'll accept clothes from friends, but I'm not really too interested in buying somebody else's clothes. Just, whatever, like that's my personal thing. That means I have to pay more for clothes than somebody else would who's willing to do that. But yeah, so like you have to buy kind of new underwear to tuck, bras once you start getting growth, new pants, new shirts, a whole new work wardrobe, shoes, which are actually a lot of fun, and then accessories as well. So some of those things that, like if you're trying to do it all at once, can be really expensive. And so for me, I built out my wardrobe with a lot of basics, some staples where, kind of just solid colored things where you can layer, you can, wear them with pretty much any different kind of combination just to give myself a bigger sort of wardrobe variety. And now I'm getting to the point where I'm just looking to add I need more work clothes, but then I also need, some going out clothes. I got 2 coats over Christmas, a trench coat and a houndstooth. One I gave myself as a present, the other one I got as a gift, but it's just sort of lots of little things like that can add up quite a bit. Makeup isn't super expensive. It can be. Honestly, the eyeliner I use is usually the grocery store brand. But like L'Oreal, it's available in grocery stores, drugstores, whatever. I do have like a fancier one, but I always feel bad using it because I'm like, this is a $30 eyeliner. Like, we want to use it for special occasions, whatever. But yeah, and so then moisturizers, things like that. Your toiletries will become more expensive. You might find yourself wanting new towels if your skin gets more sensitive, or it's a nice treat. I like it. And things like that. So, like, transition can be very expensive, even if you have insurance and benefits like that. So just, build out a budget is what some people say, or just, be prepared to spend quite a bit. Get the best job you can and kind of reduce your expenses where you can. So while I was in school, I didn't spend a lot of money going out or, kind of buying lots of things. And I still, for the most part, don't eat out. I eat pretty cheaply, even when somebody's paying for the meal for me. Like when I've been going out on interviews, things like that. I still don't like to waste other people's money or my own. So just, be conscious of that, where, one bar tab is equal to one, electrolysis session or something like that. Or do I really need 2 new coats, or is 1 new coat probably sufficient? Because that's 2 electro sessions or things like that. And obviously, the smarter you are with your money, then the more of it you have to kind of use where you want it to. And if you can plan around getting somebody to pay for some of your surgeries for you, then obviously you have a lot of money to use, maybe then for, say, an additional surgery that you wouldn't have maybe prioritized or gotten as soon as you would have otherwise. But yeah, if you have more specific questions about things that maybe I've left out, that whatever, just feel free to leave them in the comments and I'll try to get back to them whenever I can. Or if you have questions, maybe you want me to cover something really in depth for another video, please leave that in the comments because I can always use new video ideas. Okay? Have a great week. Bye. And now it's all bright. But one thing I realized I left out is also that therapy can cost quite a bit too if you're paying for that out of pocket. And so I actually neglected to mention it because that was all covered for me by the school. So that was really convenient, or I didn't have to pay for that out of pocket. But if you are, or if your insurance doesn't cover, say, GID, then that can get pretty expensive. And for me, it was just really helpful to have it, especially while I was actually going through transition and sort of experiencing life for the first time as a female, and really just being able to process things and sort of keep my head straight, keep my sanity. And that was really helpful. In some cases, you don't need it to get hormones if you can find an informed consent clinic, or you can do it yourself. But like, if you want to go that route, if you want to talk things through with somebody, then keep in mind that that's another expense.